Hello, comrades, and welcome back to your one and only state mandated podcast. You're lucky to get this one. I am your host, Tom, and today, as always, I'm joined by Charlie.
Hello, comrades. All right, Tom.
It's been a pretty quiet week for new releases.
That's why we haven't
In
really.
fact, my usual source of finding out what singles have come out, Rap Religion on Twitter, didn't even post anything today. There was
God,
literally nothing.
the scene's a bit dead at the moment, but we found something else to talk
Although
about.
there is some news we'll get to later on.
Yeah, and we got a couple singles as well that we're going to cover. But our main topic of today is going to be the one and only Viper. A
Because this is a new series we're going to start on
mhm,
the channel where we send the some artists we have a less fond opinion of to the Gulag.
going to just kind of break down the artists, the kind of stuff that they do, the kind of music they make, maybe talk about a couple songs that we listen to, a couple of albums that they've done. And at the end, we're going to decide whether they are going to remain in the Library of Music in the Tsar's auditorium or whether we are going to send them to the Gulag and erase them from history. So,
And maybe we'll let the people in the comments decide as well.
exactly, yeah. We'll see what if anybody else who's watching has heard these guys before, see what they think as well. So today, to start off our new series, we are going to be talking about the one and only Viper, a rapper he's from southwest of America, isn't he?
He's uh, Arkansas.
Yeah, Arkansas. Arkansas-based rapper, Viper, a absolutely prolific artist who has released something like 1,500 albums, I think.
It's
1,500 albums.
and it's still going. Since we planned this video, he released another two albums.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So,
his discography total is very much a moving target,
yeah,
even to this day.
so you can understand how we have not been able to listen to all of his albums, as I think if we did that, this podcast would probably never come out. But you know, we've listened to a couple of his projects, you know, some of his more well-known stuff, to kind of get an idea of what he's about, like what he does, and yeah, his most famous album that I think I listened to was "Your Cowards Don't Even Smoke Crack," which is described as his hobocore magnum opus. Um, And Tom, which ones did you listen to?
I mean, the one I've given the most time to is "Cops Can't Read," which is has a lovely cover of just his face, space, and then like a really badly like added in text box where it has the title of the album.
I think that's the case with most of his albums are
Yeah,
kind
but
of,
most of them are just like a they're like a mugshot, aren't they?
yeah,
Or
yeah,
they're a woman in a bikini that he got to take pictures of off Craigslist.
yeah, basically.
But what was it? But this one came to my attention because it got nominated in the Let's Argue series of worst album covers of all time
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the Fantano channel.
But
And I mean, I think compared to a lot of the other stuff on there, it wasn't really up there, but it is.
yeah,
It's all very DIY because his mission is to drop as many albums as possible. I don't know if he's got the record or not, but
yeah,
I think he's got to be close if he doesn't.
his mission in life is apparently to be the artist with a fit like the Guinness Book of World Records artist with the most albums ever dropped. And I think, as you said, he's getting pretty close to that with his number of about 1,500 albums. But as Tom mentioned, they're all very DIY. The covers are also very interesting. I'm sure we can throw some up on screen. A lot of them are just mug shots of him with maybe a couple of kind of bad Photoshop effects over them, a couple maybe filters, and he has some obsession with getting just these opaque shapes and just putting them all over the album cover with no like discernible pattern or anything. He just chucks them up on there. There was one of the ones that he dropped recently after we planned this podcast, which I think he dropped like 2 or 3 days ago. It literally just had a picture of his face and then about 20 star stickers just all over it with no pattern whatsoever. They're all like overlapping and they're all like spammed into one area of the album cover. But yeah, we'll say that his album designs are definitely interesting, to say the least.
As are his videos.
Yeah.
He stands in front of his green screen, sometimes with some Craigslist models, sometimes on his own, and just sort of does generic hip hop like video dances, like just like the fake gun,
Yeah.
the flexing, the showing off your chains and stuff, and just sort of rapping along, but it never syncs up with the song. So I reckon maybe he just has a stash of videos
Yeah,
in front of a green screen, and then you can just sort of put on different stuff every time because his backgrounds are so random.
I think that's my theory as well. My theory is that he'll just film a ton of footage in front of a green screen and he doesn't even know what they're going to be for yet because he hasn't even made the songs yet, because he makes songs in like he'll make an entire album normally in a couple of days. And I feel like when he probably films them, he has no idea what he's going to put them to. So it's just a random load of shots of him just like moving around, maybe in front of his house, or as you said, in front of a green screen. And like he doesn't even bother lip syncing or anything. But I just find it, if I'm honest, I find it kind of weirdly endearing. I don't know what it is about Viper, but I just find it really entertaining, a lot of his stuff. I feel like I already know what I'm going to say at the end of this segment about whether I think he should go to the Gulag or not. But I feel like we would be doing him a disservice if we didn't include him in this series, I guess.
He first came to my consciousness when he dropped his diss track for JPEG Mafia. But what was funny was that it was just pictures of MC Ride
Yeah.
that were constantly in the background of his green screen because he really JPEG Mafia really hates being compared to Death Grips.
Yeah,
But then I
yeah.
saw that a little while afterwards he dropped a MC Ride diss track, so at least
Least he's consistent.
Viper's on both sides of the fence.
Yeah, he just shoots
Kicking
at everyone. He just fire. He gives the smoke to
really has
anybody.
no mercy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So anybody who's out looking for the smoke, Viper will give it to you. But I think I want to start by talking about the first album that I think I listened to of Viper, which I think I first listened to maybe a year or two ago. Which is, as I said, his main, most well known.
His Illmatic.
Yeah, his Illmatic, his magnum opus, his absolute masterpiece, which is "Y'all Cowards Don't Even Smoke Crack," which is an
Which
album.
is a lovely grammar as well.
Yeah, yeah. Y'all is spelled Youll.
So it's Yule, really.
Yeah, so it's Yule.
Yule log.
So it's Yule Cowards Don't Even Smoke Crack. This was an album that came out in 2008, so coming on 13 years old now. And
Aged like a fine wine.
yeah, I definitely think so. It has got songs such as well, the title track, "Your Cowards Don't Even Smoke Crack," "I Sell Dope Boy," that there's a stash spot, "This Is How I Ball," "I'm Rich Already for Life," "I'm a Gangster," "I'm Gone Sting," and many, many others. It's a full length project. It's an hour long. I think there are about 15 songs on there. But I'll just mainly talk about the title track, I feel like, as that's like the most well-known song that he's ever done. And his style of rapping and beats is very, I think it's described by some people as like kind of cloud rap, as the beats that he makes are very kind of what's a good way to describe? Maybe ethereal. I think like very. Um, can you think of a way to describe them, Tom? From what you've heard?
From the Cops Can't Read album, a lot of it reminded me of like Master P, No Limit sort of thing, where they were sort of taking a bit of inspiration from Dr. Dre and G Funk, but
Mm,
they were doing it a little more basic, a bit like DJ Screw as well. That sort of
yeah.
thing. The Outkast debut album, if any of you've heard that, the beats are a bit like that, but obviously less refined, less polished.
Yeah. I think
Probably made in about 5 minutes.
yeah, I think the beats on your albums, Your Cowards Don't Even Smoke Crack, I think that's quite different to a lot of the other stuff he's done. It's a lot lighter, as I said, and his rap style over the top of that is he has a very kind of slow melodic cadence and a kind of a very very slow melodic rap style, and there's a lot of mumbling as well. Like I feel like this is something that he'll record it all in one go and just be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, that's good enough," that works, and he'll just slap it onto the beat and call it a day, basically. So
Because when I
yeah,
saw the amount of albums he's released, I thought there might be a chance he's rapped every word in the dictionary at some point. But actually, having listened to it, I really don't think there is, because there seems to be the same subject matter in every song
yeah, yeah.
on the same album. Never mind spread out over an entire discography.
A lot of his albums are all about him being a drug dealer, as supposedly he was a genuine crack dealer before he took up being a musical artist, and he also the entirety of Your Cowards Don't Even Smoke Crack is all about him talking about how other dealers don't seem to have the balls to try their own supply, basically, and how he would smoke the crack that he was dealing to other people.
He
And
had to. You got to check it to make sure it's good.
exactly, yeah, you gotta have some form of quality control in your drug dealing business, but yeah, that's kind of like the storyline of Your Cowards Don't Even Smoke Crack. There were some other smaller bits throughout the different songs on the album that are just about, because it's all like basic drug dealer stuff, like obviously the title track being about what I mentioned before. Then That's a Stash Spot, just talking about how he how he hides his crack. Um, Eyeball for Gunshots, talking about him going around shooting other competitive some of his competitors, and just shit like that. It's very, I would say it is very entertaining, even though, as you mentioned earlier, it's very very low quality. It's very rough around the edges, but a way that I can,
Say rough in the middle as well.
yeah, and at the end, I'd say rough all the way through. Um,
Because
but
there were some tracks on the Cops Can't Read album. I think it was track number 2 where he had the DJ Screw style effect, and I think that was something he was playing around with on this album because it appears sporadically through most of the songs.
mm,
Where, if you're not familiar, he goes really deep in the register like
yeah,
this,
yeah.
and but on one of the songs, the second track, it is put on his voice to the point where he is literally unintelligible. You can't even tell where a word, like one word starts and another ends. It's just a constant stream of
Noise.
really deep mumbling.
Yeah.
It's
Um.
quite something to behold.
Um. Oh,
And then there
talking
was
about
another
that.
track where in the beat, it was actually quite experimental. He like had the sound of someone clearing their throat, like just looping randomly in the background.
Hmm. Um.
It was that's something even Death Grips wouldn't dare do. So
I
I
was
mean,
gonna
all credit
say
to Viper.
that his kind of experimentation with a lot of his beats does remind me a lot of someone like Death Grips, but um, it's basically Death Grips without the immense amount of musical talent and musical knowledge that the three of them have. Um,
I
but
suppose when you're making so much music, some of it will be good or at least interesting at some point,
yeah, yeah, I feel like he's
even by accident.
he's had so many albums. I feel like there's got to be something in that discography for everyone at some point. Like, I know you're going to have to sift through an absolute load of junk to get to it, but I feel like that's also kind of the fun in it. That's also the fun in his kind of discography. It's like, oh, you've got so many different albums. You could click on any of these 1,500 projects that he's done, and you're like, well, it could be garbage, but it could also be something interesting and experimental and quite unique, because I think he has proven himself to actually be able to do stuff like that. But I think he's basically just taken the method of throwing as much shit at the wall to see what sticks, basically. So, or like the shotgun approach, where he's trying like every different approach he possibly could to making music, in the hope that he'll make a couple of good albums along the way. But hold on, I lost my train of thought. So,
But then again, they do sort of have the same formula for every track, every album.
mm,
Because he even mentions on a couple of tracks here, just like I smoke my own crack to make sure it's the best.
yeah, which is
Because I don't want. And then it was like a little rambling about like sort of justifying it to himself.
yeah,
When obviously it's been his gimmick for a while, because the Cops Can't Read came out in 6 years after his Y'all Cowards Don't Even Smoke Crack
yeah,
album.
which was basically just about him hating cops, but
But there wasn't much mention of cops. I think it was more like that, like with a couple of these things, the title's what makes the statement rather than the actual
mm,
content.
yeah, 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 because I don't know whether it's purely because his lyrics are sometimes so unintelligible you can't understand it, or whether there isn't actually mention of a lot of them. But um, as you said, the majority of the time within the actual context of the song, it's just the titles of it that are kind of conveying the messages of each album. Similarly to Your Cowards, I'm just going to call it that from now on. All of the titles of the songs are about his drug dealing lifestyle, but then if you look on, I think it's actually got his own Genius page, this whole album. If you look into some of the actual contents of them, it's mostly, a lot of it's just kind of unintelligible rambling on top of a beat, and there's just kind of so much other random shit that's kind of put in there. So
And did you see 2 weeks ago he was at Capitol?
really,
Well, he was in front of a green screen that was
oh
there.
yeah, he partook in the Capitol riots in spirit. You know, he sent himself over there via green screen. But
And
actually,
just 4 days ago, he says after storming the Capitol, I'm going to ascend into the Cos Museum. Now I don't know what the Cos Museum is, but
yeah, his Twitter is pretty, is it's I guess it's a relic. That's what I think. It's like a an oddity. It's a very very interesting oddity. Um, Along with the titlings of a lot of his drops and a lot of his um, song titles. Like I think it was the one that he dropped 3 days ago. Um, the entire title of that was Viper is suing the U.S. government for a
oh
hundred
yeah,
billion,
no,
and
he was suing
the
them for 1 trillion.
oh he was, yeah, it was Viper was suing the U.S. government for $1 trillion, the Small Business Association, Apple, and Google for 100 billion each. That was the whole
And it was
album
one of his
title.
more clever album covers, because it was sort of styled like a newspaper
Yeah,
front
yeah.
page.
It did have the classic Viper mugshot that has to be on every single album cover that doesn't include a girl in a bikini. Um, but he had it in a newspaper. He had a newspaper overlay of it, which was a bit more detailed. But I have looked into his discography on Bandcamp, and he uses that effect a lot. There are a lot of newspaper
Oh, are there?
article ones. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
there are a couple ones where he does more specific things, like the "Fuck the world, it ain't real. I bend the spoon of my mind." Has a spoon in the background.
yeah, yeah.
Or "Cops can't read" is in space. Or there was one I saw about him having nukes and he's gonna drop them, and then there was a picture of a nuclear explosion in the background.
No, yeah. Um,
He can tailor his stuff sometimes
yeah,
when
yeah.
he's going a bit more topical.
I feel like all this time when we're talking about this, we need to just have a kind of almost slideshow of all of Viper's classic album covers because there are a lot of very, very, very good ones.
But I think I forgot to mention when I was saying that he did, like, his voice reminded me of Master P, and he was actually quite prolific. Like, his label used to put out a compilation of songs every month,
Mm,
and then they would maybe artists would drop on top of that as well on the label
yeah.
albums. But I mean, there's nothing and no one that can really compare
The
to Viper.
yeah, the just
He's
pure prolific music creating
he's
that
really a
Viper is doing.
renegade of the game.
Oh, 100%. A good category I feel like to put him in, even though it's kind of more of an abstract category than a lot of others, is outsider music, which is basically kind of someone completely outside of the traditional musical sphere making a lot of the time it's very very strange um unorthodox music a lot of the time, but it's also praised a lot by other musical artists for being incredibly kind of raw and personal, I think, as well. But I feel like that best describes Viper. He's the king of outsider hip hop, I think.
I just found this Rate Your Music article, and they've got number one most prolific artist Sun Ra with only 159 albums.
What? That's
Where's
absolute
the
travesty.
there's no Lil B, no Viper. This is outrageous.
When was that made?
Not long enough ago to not include Viper.
No, yeah, because he went on it was 2014, wasn't it? He went on a 347 album streak where
Yeah,
he dropped
which
almost an album a day for an entire
every
year.
1.2 something days.
Yeah, which was absolutely insane. But I just wanted to go through
I was just
some
trying to
of
find the record holder, and I can't, unfortunately, find that information.
yeah. I just wanted to spend a bit of time to go through some of Viper's album titles because, as we mentioned, there are as he's gotten to 1,500 albums. There are a lot of very very interesting album covers and album titles, and as we had mentioned, some covers. I thought I'd go through a couple of titles.
Oh my good god, he's got.
Mm.
Wait, no, he hasn't. No, he must have beat. No, apparently the record is only 20. Wait, how many has he dropped?
1,500.
He's got another 10,000 to go then.
What?
The current record isn't as a Bollywood artist. I think's done a lot of scores for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, or the cool. This an Indian duo that have dropped 25,000 albums, and that was
Jesus.
in 2011. So they could well have dropped more since then.
How? I don't get it. But well, it seems that Viper is very very far off getting his goal because he's got a
Well,
long
he's
way
not
to
given
go.
up, which we know. He's like we say, he's dropped two albums this week.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's not even this week. That's since we came up with the idea for this podcast, which was what, 3 days ago, 4 days ago. We came up with the idea of this podcast. He's dropped twice since then, and
Well, we know he's not going to stop. So we'll
yeah.
if we're still if he ever gets there, I'm sure it'll make the news segment.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. We will keep an eye on our boy Viper and keep anyone updated for Um,
he's dropped. So his best year is 347, and
mm,
he's still got 10,000 at least to release.
that's insane.
He's got a lot of work to do.
That's almost 30 years worth of albums. If he's keeping that pace for 30 years, he could maybe
Jesus
make it.
Christ. Well, I saw in an interview he got a bit of he got a good head start because while he was in prison
Yeah,
he wrote about 2,000 songs.
yeah, yeah. I'm assuming he was in prison for his crack dealing.
Uh, well, you'd think so, but then would he? I don't think he'd be out even now if that was the case, would he? Because that's quite a serious crime.
I don't know, but you back?
Hmm.
You just dropped out for a second there.
Yeah, I clicked on another channel.
Oh, okay,
Whoopsie daisy.
okay. No, don't worry. We can just cut this whole segment out. But yeah, I wanted to. I'm gonna go through a couple of his album titles. I think because they're quite interesting. Because a lot of his most recent album titles, as I said, most of the time the title conveys the entire message of the album, not the actual context of the songs. A lot of his more recent ones, he's been comparing himself to a literal deity, um, referring to himself as the last messenger, and also saying about how is he is the kind of on a quest to stop racial injustice and fighting for our democracy when it comes to the whole Capitol Hill riots that happened a couple of weeks ago, or well, the Capitol Hill almost insurrection. But some of his more recent album cover titles, I mean, are obviously Last Messenger, Viper, Last Messenger of Our Deity, with just a picture of him on a cloud, calling himself the Return of Jesus Christ. There is a title. He has a newspaper series. I think a series of his albums. They start off with Viper says, and then have his quote in quotation marks, and then each.
Is it a quote or is it like life advice? Viper says,
I
"Smoke
think it's
crack."
it's a quote. It's a quote because the album title that I said earlier, the one about him suing the U.S. government, the Small Business Association, Apple, and Google, that one actually started off with Viper says quotation mark, and he has and all of his Viper says series, they all have the same picture of him with a newspaper overlay, and then the title of the album in the newspaper article. He's got a couple such as Viper says, I'm going to make the United States government and their Central Intelligence Agency murder me like every other major black leader before me, or every black owned business must get a United States stock trade symbol. Black justice is equal economy. That was one of his recent ones from his Viper Says series. Another one, which is Viper says, I will not rest until the United States government murders me. He seems to have a fixation as well on becoming a martyr in some of
He is a martyr.
his Viper Says series. Oh, the one thing that you need to be a martyr is you need to be killed for something you believe in, which I don't think has happened yet. Well, I hope it doesn't happen, but
He hopes it does though, so maybe we should care more about what he wants.
maybe. But then we won't have some of his beautiful.
Once he drops 10K albums.
Yeah, yeah. But as I said, there are kind of almost subplots, I think, going on within certain almost series that he has going in his album covers and his album titles. Like, as I said, in between a couple of those newspaper ones, one which is the 40 Acres Covenant. All of US born blacks must get a one-time check of $100,000 and 40 acres of land and a mule, which was one of his other, I guess, newspaper series albums. There's also the kind of weird deity comparisons throughout here as well, because I'm just looking at them in like release order, where he's calling himself the Messiah. There's one where he refers to himself as the Trap House Messiah. There's an album called I Am the Light. And let's see if I can find another one here. There's one that's just called The Light, or I Am the Way. I'm so much smarter than you. In brackets, he then repeats that in brackets, just saying I'm smarter than you. But yeah, I just find it. I think the only way to describe it is I just find it fascinating. Just looking at this dude's discography.
He's a very interesting case.
Yeah. Because as I
And
said,
the
you can carry on.
and the thing I wanted to finish on was his. He's not just a rapper. He actually has a business. I don't know if you know about this.
Is it the Three Movers?
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
I think actually not a bad idea. Where he's basically they're selling houses, and then with it they'll move your stuff for free when you do it through his service. Now I did see a couple of reviews, one that said it was a scam, and another one that says that the trailer that they pulled up with to pick up your stuff didn't have a floor, and the drivers stank of alcohol apparently. But he had an old Twitter bio. It's not his current one, but there was an old one that says once he IPOs, his business, the Free Movers, he's going to become the first trillionaire.
Yeah. So once he gets
And
his
then in
initial
this,
public offering, he's going to become the first trillionaire.
and the same Twitter bio also it proclaimed the Crip gang that he was in.
So
he's throwing up gang signs while counting his trillions.
he's not only a artist, he is also a real estate mogul and
He's a business owner.
Yeah, he's a business.
He's a black business owner.
Because talking about his Free Movers real estate, he does actually have a series based on that in his albums.
There's only so many topics that circle around the Viper universe.
Yeah.
And they get repeated over and over again.
The thing that I'm gonna finish off by saying the thing that I find so interesting about Viper, and the thing why I find it so entertaining and endearing, is just there's a lot of lore behind him. There's a lot of lore behind all of his albums. As I said, there are multiple storylines ongoing. There are multiple themes and different ideas and concepts kind of all happening at the same time. Because I mean, with a guy who drops maybe 3 to 4 times a week, he's got to find new and weird and interesting ways to kind of try to spice up his albums. And that includes comparing himself to the second coming of Christ, like his news segment series, his series of albums talking about his real estate business. And there's also one which caught my interest as well, where he's praying for him to get his son back. I don't know whether he has a son. I don't know whether that's true, but I feel if we dig deep enough, we could probably find multiple albums talking about this son.
And then there's all the ones about all the models and the hoes that he gets with just pictures of women in lingerie.
Yeah.
There are many of those.
Yeah, there is, yeah. But yeah, that's just the main thing that I find so interesting about him, just the amount of lore there is behind him. So he is a one-of-a-kind internet personality, I think. And I feel if we're finishing up here, then my verdict for it is going to be that I do not wish to send Viper to the Gulag. I feel like he is a entertaining and funny artist that is... It's fun to keep up with him, and it's fun to like watch and listen to some of his drops and just see what's going on in his head. So
I actually disagree though. I think he should go to the Gulag.
Should.
Because last time he was in jail, he wrote 2,000 songs. So maybe if we send him to the Gulag, he can just knuckle down, write
Mm.
like write the albums that he needs to break the record,
Oh,
and then we can
okay.
let him out again. And at the age of 85, he can finally break the record.
Oh, that's actually a pretty good take on that then. So you
I don't
want
know. That's
to
I think
you
he could. I think it could do him some good if we send him to the Gulag.
so you want to send him there more for his less of, oh, we need to wipe him off the face of the planet, and more of, we're gonna send him there to focus. Kind of the prison background could really help him get his albums out.
I don't know whether he'll be able to record and stuff though if he's taking spice instead of crack. I wonder what that'll do to his
His
writing process.
Yeah. You need to keep him in the gulag with a steady supply of crack rock to be able to keep his creative juices flowing, basically. So, yeah, but if
What do you guys think? Do you think Viper we should delete all his albums? I mean, they're not even. It's not even a record at the end of the day. So would anyone miss them if they went?
mm, does he deserve to get sent to the musical gulag, or should we keep Viper around? And if anyone's interested in listening to him, you can listen to him on Bandcamp, YouTube. He's all over the place. Like I think you said, wasn't he on Amazon Music or something, or Apple Music?
Yeah, he's got many albums on Apple Music, but
Yeah,
none of his classics, unfortunately.
yeah,
All
yeah.
of them I hadn't heard of, and some of them were just random sequels, and they didn't have the first one on there. So really,
Mm.
Apple, you need to step your game up and sort your
Sort your shit out.
priorities out and
Yeah.
get the good Viper albums. Because the three I tried to listen to, none of them were on there.
No, yeah. So you can listen to him on SoundCloud as well. You can listen to him on pretty much anything and see what you think. Make your
I
own
mean, you can stream it
opinions.
for free on Bandcamp. That's the place to go.
Yeah, yeah.
But when I was listening to Cops Can't Read, that it did sometimes put other artists' random songs on there.
Mm.
I don't know whether that's like the equivalent of when you're streaming Spotify for free and then there'll be ads. Instead, they just sometimes play a random song instead of the one you want.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe,
I
but
don't know.
Viper's gonna Viper,
Yeah,
and
he's
let's just hope
breaks that
he keeps
record.
on dropping. He keeps on dropping 15-track albums. I think he's being too generous. If
Yeah.
if Daytona got nominated for having 7 tracks,
I think
he
he
could
cuts it in
he could
half,
really
yeah.
up the release by making his albums a bit shorter.
Yeah, so if we ever have the honor of having Viper listen to this, cut down your track number, stick to maybe 7 or 8 tracks, and you can nearly double your album production. You can head for that record because you
Well, even if you do 10 tracks, then with the 15, then there'll be 10. So he'll
yeah,
drop 3 albums in the time he would have dropped 2.
yeah, exactly. So
Although I don't know whether they're putting them in a maybe I'm overthinking this. Viper, keep doing you. We're rooting for you. You're
yeah,
only 49. You got plenty of time to break that
yeah.
record.
If you just keep on going at the pace you're
What was
going,
the math
you'll
you
be
said? Like 30 years.
30 years. Yeah, yeah. It would take him 30 years, so he would be nearly 80 by the time that he's broken that record. But
Worth it.
that is just counting on the fact that Bollywood duo that you said held the record currently. That's just hoping they don't drop at the same rate he does. So who
Are
knows?
they
But
still going?
even so, we're rooting for Viper. He is the most prolific rapper in the game, and yeah, if you're interested in that, make sure you check him out on Bandcamp or
There's
YouTube or
plenty
anything.
to catch up on.
Exactly. All right. And there we go. All right. Now,
Shall we move on to the singlays?
yes, let's. We've had a couple of drops that interested both of us this week that we thought we wanted to talk about. We had one single each that kind of caught our interest. So, Tom, do you want to start us off by talking about what single you were listening to this week?
The Lana Del Rey title track from her new album coming in March. Chemtrails Over the Country Club. The only issue I had with this song really was the distinct lack of mention of chemtrails.
Only in the chorus.
Well, but it didn't explain. For me, maybe that this is like a full album thing. It will develop on it a little more, but there wasn't any mention of why they were sort of highlighted.
Mm. There were no conspiracy theories or anything like that. That
No,
was
it was more like a sort of angsty, sort of glum track, which I guess is quite fitting in the current climate.
yeah. Plus, it's also very Lana Del Rey, so that is her
That
thing,
is
I
true.
guess.
The
So
the the artist that coined "Summertime Sadness."
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, this was sort of a track where we don't really know why, but she's being a bit of a rebel. She's drag racing her sports car.
Mm,
She's taking LSD.
yeah.
She's going swimming with her jewels still on.
Oh, very risky, although quite irresponsible. So because you could plug
But
up your pool doing that.
well, if it falls off, yeah. But it does this all this the atmosphere going on. It's quite nice and jazzy, and there's like a really nice jazzy outro to the song as well.
Mm,
And my God, to finish off, my God, the vocal melody on the chorus
mm.
is to die for, in my opinion.
I would agree with that. I'm not a very big Lana Del Rey fan. I don't really listen to any of her stuff, but I did really like kind of the vocal rising, like the I guess kind of the rising melody that she had throughout either the pre-chorus or like most of the verse going up into the chorus. But I think as you said, the jazzy minimalistic intro work, not intro, instrumental worked quite well as well. But from what I've heard, that's quite similar to a lot of the songs she does. So,
Mm.
but
Well,
yeah,
I wasn't as big a fan as the other single, "Let Me Love You Like a Woman." I was
mm,
far bigger fan of this one, so I'm hoping the
yeah,
album's more like this than that song.
yeah.
But we'll have to wait and see.
When did that come out? The previous single.
December sometime.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. And the single that I've been listening to that came out this week was Typhoons by Royal Blood. The title track again, so another title track that came out this week of their third album that is coming out on the 20th of April, I believe. So this is their third studio album since their second one came out back in 2017. And I have been very excited to hear new stuff from them. This is the second single off the album. The first one came out in November. And yeah, I definitely preferred this one over the first one. I felt it was a lot. I It was a lot heavier. It was a lot more kind of
The I Hear Trouble Coming was quite a poppy rock song, wasn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. It was. This was more of a traditional Royal Blood rock song. The first single, as Tom said, it was more kind of a pop rock song than what normally is expected to by Royal Blood. But that doesn't mean I didn't like it. I felt that Troubles Coming was quite groovy and quite fun to listen to. But this one was definitely a big improvement. And along with that, I think that Mike Kerr's vocals have improved by like massive amounts since the release of their second album, because his kind of vocal style for all of their previous music, he like strains his voice. He purposefully strains it and almost pushes it as hard as he can, and that usually causes there to be a lot of vocal cracks in his vocals. But in this single, he was able to hit the notes that he normally does, but it sounded so much smoother than it does in any of the other songs that they've put out so far, I think, including the previous one that dropped in November. And yeah, I just love the guitar riffs in it. It has some very nice backing instrumentals as well, some good vocal layering. But I feel the main thing that I liked from it is the giant improvement from Mike Kerr's vocals, and I feel it's definitely worth listening to. So, do you
So
want
for
to?
me personally, the vocals didn't do that much for me, but the riffs were great.
Yeah, I mean, Royal Blood are very, very prolific when it comes to their riff making. Like that's normally their thing. So, um, but the there's a lot more backing I think, to the riffs in this one. Whereas normally, a lot of the time in Royal Blood songs, there is only the riff and the drums, which are by Ben Thatcher. There's a lot more. They've got a lot more backing and a lot more instrument layering in the last two songs that they've done. So, from what I'm seeing, we're in for a very interesting album. I think with a lot more musical complexity to it than what they've previously had on their older albums. So yeah, I'm looking forward to April 20th. So we'll definitely be covering that as well on the podcast, along with the Lana Del Rey album when that drops too. So yeah,
Around March sometime.
yeah. So be expecting a review of both of those. All right, shall we move on to the news? Welcome to the news segment of the show. So it's been a bit quiet over the last few weeks, but I think we've got a couple of smaller stories to cover.
Because I think no matter, because this time of year is for music people, you don't really want to be dropping now. Because when it comes to end of year stuff and award ceremonies, a lot of time your release will be forgotten about.
Yeah, yeah.
But that doesn't stop crazy people doing stupid stuff
Exactly.
or crazy stuff, which I think leads us on to our first item, does it not?
Yeah, brings us on to our first story, which is Azalea Banks, a local internet crazy lady that starts beef with
Does she
anyone and
still make
everyone.
raps?
I don't know, but she recently came under flack for a video of her digging up her dead cat and boiling its body. So I have no idea why she would do this. Supposedly, she's saying it's some kind of witchcraft ritual. But
To make your dead cat into soup.
yeah, why would you cook your dead cat? Like, just it's just completely ridiculous. I
I
mean,
mean, I'd say it would be resourceful, but I think if you were going to be resourceful, you'd have just done that straight away with the cat, wouldn't you, rather than
yeah,
bury it?
rather than bury it and wait, because I don't think this is like a recently dead cat. I think it's been dead for a while. So I don't think this is something that she was like, oh yeah, it died like yesterday, so I'm gonna boil its body. But yeah, there were a lot of people that were very angry at Azalea Banks, and I think justly so. It was a bit of a really really weird thing to do, and especially to put your videos up on Instagram Live. I think, or
Yeah, if
her.
you were going to do that, keep that to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Don't post it on IG because that's weird as hell. But anyway, should we and our we'll move on to our next story. Um, Move away from the cat boiling to some things that are a bit more mundane.
It boiled my blood.
Which
Not really. That didn't bother me that much. It just surprised me a little bit. The news, and I saw it the day after the story came up, so I don't know what I was doing. Sometimes, because Instagram stories, sometimes there are so many, so I just put them on and then like let my phone skim through them while I do other things.
mm,
But anyway, Drake has decided to push back his album release.
yeah,
He's currently rehabilitating his knee after surgery.
yeah.
And
So
so the album that was slated to be the simp rap anthems.
Certified Lover Boy, yeah, the simp themed R&B album that was meant to come out, wasn't it the end of this month? Tom?
Oh, you cut out there. I didn't hear you.
Oh, you cut out for me. Okay, all right, don't worry about it. All right,
Where were we
um,
before I cut out?
all right. So it was. I was just saying, yeah, Certified Lover Boy. It was meant to come out later at the end of this month. Am I right, Tom?
I think it was meant to be next week.
Yeah, but it has now been pushed back to a undecided release date. So could be at any time, but
All he's saying is before the year is out.
yeah, we will get the Simp anthem.
I mean,
Um,
this is what the Simps want. Like, what are the Simps gonna listen to now?
exactly.
I guess old Drake,
Yeah.
Marvin's Room on repeat.
Old Drake songs while they look at pictures of female streamers holding their feet up to the cameras. But um, but yeah, you said you had a bit of a different theory about this and why you think it got pushed back.
Well, I mean, he has had knee surgery reported. I mean, obviously, I didn't witness it, so I can't factually 100% guarantee that's true. But that seems to not be a lie. What I am a little suspect of, though, is that I think it's been pushed back more to do with the fact that he can't tour.
Hmm.
Because this release date's been in place since about November time,
Yeah.
when the world was slightly less locked down than it is now. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Yeah. Plus, I also think in the state the album is probably in now, there really doesn't need to be that much work put on it. I think.
I'm
I
imagining it's at least 90% done, if not 100.
Yeah, because it was meant to come out next week, so I do not think there would be a huge amount that would need to be done. So I can kind of see where your logic is coming from when it comes to that, as like even with a recovering knee, you could probably still do some work on it when you're sitting like just maybe mixing, or maybe he's done
I
all
mean,
of
not
his
being funny,
vocals.
Stevie Wonder can't see, and he's released a fair few albums in his
Yeah,
time.
exactly. But whatever we're saying is it that's just an idea. Obviously we don't know the man, we don't know the actual situation, but it is a little suspicious. But anyway.
And we're gonna have to wait a little longer for a new
Mm,
Champagne Pappy album.
exactly. But on to our third and final story. This is more of a high school drama-esque story.
And it's still ongoing.
Yeah, which is to do with the absolute smash mega hit called Driver's License, which has been breaking countless records for daily Spotify streams and single sales and all kinds of stuff. So, an absolute gigantic hit. Tom, I feel like you know more about this story than I do. So, do you want to
Well,
explain?
I was scrolling through Genius as I sometimes do, and I saw that this song and another related the response.
Mm.
The So this is Olivia Rodrigo's driver's license,
Mm-hmm.
which I think even has the picture of the boy in question in the cover, the single artwork. But it's basically a sort of a breakup song. How you said that they'd be together forever, and and I think there was a little slight dig at the new girlfriend with some derogatory thing about blonde people
Mm.
just flung in there, and that upset his girlfriend to the point that she's responded to this track.
Yeah.
I think mostly because, like you were saying, it's blowing up like the Genius page views. It's the top viewed song at the moment.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
streams are going crazy. It's a good song as well. I quite enjoyed it for what it was, and it
Yeah.
didn't seem that harmful to me. But obviously,
Mm.
Sabrina disagrees, so she's dropped the song "Skin," and that for me wasn't as enjoyable. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, a little bit of singer-songwriter beef. I didn't expect that.
That's not
You
really
don't really
something that happens a lot. So
know, like when Pusha T dropped Infrared and then Drake came back, clapped back with whatever that freestyle was
it was
called.
the Duppy freestyle, I believe he
That's
dropped
the
back
one.
with. Yeah.
That was understandable, but I think it was last night she dropped this response, which
Mm.
is not the sort of thing you do in
Well, I mean,
pop.
it, I could understand it from her point of view because you see this song, even though the digs that she took at her were very, very small, this song has blown up like no other song has. I feel like the only song kind of comparable to how big this hit has been is maybe Lucid Dreams by Juice WRLD. I think that's probably the closest
From a,
one.
from an unknown, relatively
Yeah,
unknown
yeah,
artist. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Yeah, from an unknown artist to have like one of their first songs blow up to this level. The only time we've seen that recently would be with Lucid Dreams. If even if there's the tiniest little dig on you, the chance to respond to that, you know your song is gonna have a ton of views and get a ton of hits, regardless of how good it is. So I feel like looking at it from more of a kind of gaining clout perspective, it's almost a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's very much a clout grab.
Yeah, that she would respond to it. But
Because the chorus is almost eye rolling with the line, "You thought you were getting under my skin while he's touching mine." I mean,
yeah,
it wasn't that deep. Like, he told her to learn how to drive, and now she's singing about how she's got a driver's license, but now she's driving the car on her own. It's quite beautiful imagery in a way. It's quite sad.
yeah, yeah. But even way, even so, it's given.
I wonder if Olivia's gonna respond.
I don't know. I feel if she does, the only person that it would benefit would be Sabrina. So, as Olivia has already blown the hell up, she's not going to gain anything from Sabrina's responses. But Sabrina's got a hell of a lot to gain from Olivia's responses. So, I think we're just going to have to wait and see if she does. So, I'm sure we'll report on that if that does happen. So I feel like,
Yeah, go listen to the songs and see what.
yeah, see what you think, give them some hits. But yeah, I feel like that's all the news stories we have for this week, and I think that's probably where we're gonna finish off. So
Yep.
we will see you all next time, comrades. Thank you for stopping by. Tsar bless you, and remember, if you disagree with us, the secret police will come knocking at your door. So
So stay safe and don't breach any of our state laws.
exactly, and hail the Tsar.